Hi, welcome back to Q&A with RF Smart. My name is Sarah Archer, and today I'm joined by Shane Heston. Shane is the product manager for our JD Edwards product line, and he and his team are rolling out exciting new functionality that we're going to talk about today. So Shane, thank you for being here. I just want to kind of jump into this interview. Can you define what offline means for the JD Edwards product?
So the offline application is a way for companies to have the ability to collect transactional data on mobile devices when they do not have connectivity to their company's network. So with this initial availability to the market, we've developed the application for JD Edwards with 5 transactions.
So I want to start with these transactions. We'll get to those kind of in a moment. But first, I'm interested in the history. Where did this come about from? Why do we need offline?
Yeah, so we committed to developing the application for a nationwide mattress retailer, and they had a couple of use cases. So the first use case is that they have a storefront location in a retail mall in New York City that has very tight security, and they have the shared receiving dock that all companies within the mall must use, but there is no Wi-Fi availability on that shared dock space. And because of security, all of the packages have to be opened on this shared dock space. But they wanted a way to be able to use PO receipts in an offline capacity so that when they are connected to the network back in the retail store, they could then upload those transactions from the data they've collected. The second use case that they have is that several of their stores nationwide store their excess inventory in basements where there's no Wi-Fi connectivity, or the Wi-Fi connectivity is spotty at best. So they wanted the ability to be able to perform cycle counts while being offline from their network.
So that's 2 of the transactions, PO receipts, and counting. So what are the other 3 transactions that are available for offline?
Yeah, so in addition to receiving and cycle counting, we have inventory transfer, sales order picking, and then we have a service work order issue transaction. So if you think of your typical distribution center, typically those 4 transactions on the inventory side are very common transactions. So we wanted to be able to give the market some very common transactions that they could use out of the box. The service work order issue was intended for companies that maybe have, they perform field service work. So maybe they keep inventory on their trucks, and whether they want to count the inventory with cycle counting while they're out in the field, or to be able to do service work order issue as the products that they're repairing while the components are being consumed, they would have the ability to do that. So one use case or one company that I could tell you about is a fuel service company that leases equipment, and they have to go out into the field to repair that equipment at any given time. So they have a inventory that they keep on each of their maintenance trucks, and then while they're out in the field, the offline service work order issue would be a very common transaction that they might use to consume that inventory as they are using it to repair their vehicles.
That's a very interesting use case, and of course makes perfect sense for this offline functionality. I think anybody who's watching this video, what they want to know, Shane, is how does it work? Can you tell us about how it works?
Well, I can try. There's several components to it, so I'll do my best to do this very briefly. So first, you have the offline application, or an APK, which is installed onto each of the mobile devices that are going to capture offline data. You then have the RF Smart automation server, and then there's the RF Smart management suite, which provides the access to the administration side for setting up users, configuring the offline transactions. So once all of those components are in place, the offline application on the mobile device is configured to communicate to the automation server. Once that's done, users log into the device and can perform the initial master data sync. And what that does is that seeds the data onto the device, And it's not just the transaction data, the configured workflow, if you will. It includes the JD Edwards data. So you're looking at your branch plants, your item master, location master, your units of measure, as well as all of the orders and cycle counts that they're eligible to transact against. So once the master data sync is done, then the user can now begin using the mobile device while offline from the company's network. So as they're collecting the transaction data, certain data fields will be validated to the data that has been downloaded to the device. And once all of the data has been validated and the required data has been collected for a specific transaction, the user then saves that transaction to the device. Then once they're back in network range, whether it's back in the office or even to a mobile network, they can execute the upload of their pending transactions to RF Smart, and the automation module will process those transactions with JD Edwards. So one of the features that we've put into the software is that users have visibility to all of the saved transactions, and we even allow them to view and edit the transactions before they send them. So the other thing I want to mention about it is there's a couple different data syncs. So obviously we've talked about the master data sync, and that's something that takes a little more time because of the amount of data that is being downloaded to the device. But there's another syncing feature where only the current orders and the cycle counts are downloaded to the device. So customers would only need to do a master data sync initially when they set up the devices, and then anytime they would add new branch plants or items or locations. Otherwise, they would just need to perform the syncing of the order data.
Shane, it sounds like that you and your team have thought of all of the different cases that this would, all of the different functionality that this is useful for. And of course, we talked about that great retail use case and that great example you gave with the field service truck. But what are other environments or other examples of use cases for this offline functionality?
Anytime you're any manufacturing facility, maybe that they store raw material in a yard or out in a field, or even finished goods stored outdoors where there is no Wi-Fi access. Really, it's any scenario where you have employees that are writing down transactions on paper because they don't have network access. Those would be great use cases. Also, we want to make sure that we communicate the correct message to our customers. You don't want to utilize offline for your data collection solution 100% of the time. So anytime you can transact in real time, that's always the best way to go. But if a company has exhausted all opportunities to gain network connectivity, but it's just not technologically possible or economically feasible, that's where offline could fill that gap.
You've kind of touched on, how do I know when offline is right for me? Can you give some examples of when it's appropriate to use real time versus offline?
Yeah, well, real time is always the best practice. So anytime you're sending transactions to in real time to your ERP system, or anytime you're querying data in real time, that's always going to be the most accurate data you can transact with. But so RF Smart has purpose-built transaction integrated to JD Edwards that query in real time. We have about 100 workflows for our real-time online solution. But the offline fills the gap for those specific use cases where connectivity to the network just isn't possible. So if customers have any questions on that, we have a team at RF Smart that can support them and help them determine what the best use cases might be.
Shane, that's a great point. If you are listening and you have questions about this functionality, maybe you're already an RF Smart customer and you'd like to see more, maybe you're considering RF Smart and this functionality would be useful for you, of course, reach out to our team. We can get a demo scheduled for you. You can do that by emailing info@rfsmart.com. We'll make sure that that's linked down in the video description for you, so you've got the information available for that. Shane, thank you so much for being on the show today and for giving giving us just a little glimpse into this huge project that's finally come together. I'm so excited to see how this improves and changes our customers' lives. Thanks again, Shane. Thank you to those listening, and we'll see you again really soon.